Hello and welcome to Scotty Kilmer Live Car Talk Podcast. I've been working on cars for 51 years. I hate seeing people get ripped off. I take after my grandfather. He was a mechanic too, one of those skip generations. Remember, during the show, ask your questions on a live chat. I'll pick the best ones and answer them. The first question is, SoCal Ozzy, is the high-end Snap-on scanner worth the money? And is there another scanner that does the same for less? Very good question. Here's the problem with scan tools. The only scan tools that work the absolute best are the dealer OEM ones. But they cost so much money, a company like Snap-on makes a more generic one that can do quite a bit, but it can't do anything near what an OEM scan tool does. Now, as for the competitors, I personally use this AutoSys thing. This is like a $5,000 scan tool, and I like it. It does quite a bit. It's got free updates for 3 years, where Snap-on just charges you a fortune for each one. But, as I said, the problem with scan tools are none of them work as good as the OEM. Now, let's say you're a Mercedes-Benz mechanic. Well, if you want to buy a Mercedes-Benz Star Tester, they're like 25 grand up. But, of course, the Chinese make copies of them, reverse engineering. If you want, you can go to Alibaba and you can buy one of these Chinese clone star scanners for like $1,700, and they work quite well. Technically they're illegal, but I mean, that's the world these days. You want to make a car and sell it to people. I think people should get information cheaper on how to fix them. But if you really want to go deep into fixing cars, you would need an OEM level scan tool for every car out there, and you would spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and you'd never recoup it. So things like Snap-on, hey, they make a decent product, but as far as I'm concerned, it's way overpriced. They charge too much money for what it does because they don't do anywhere near high level as the OEM ones do. Next question is Michael Martin. Michael says, Scotty, much love from Tucson, Arizona. What would you recommend to keep a black car looking nice and shiny? I'm sure you know black cars are difficult. Recommend to keep a black car looking nice and shiny. I'm sure you know black cars are difficult to keep clean. Yeah, trade it in for a black motorcycle like me. I got a black Triumph Thruxton. Motorcycles are tiny. They live in a garage. The only thing you got to polish is the gas tank and the side covers. Everything else is either chrome or just black painted frame. So they're easy to keep clean. The problem with cars are they get dirty so fast when they're black. I did a shoot years ago with a Mustang that Ford gave me for a week. It was a brand new car. They brought it clean. They cleaned it down the street 2 blocks from my house. I did a shoot. 2 hours later, I looked at the car and it looked filthy. We got a lot of dust and stuff here in Houston in the summer. Yeah, the only way you can really keep them clean is by garaging them, keeping them in a garage. And what you can do is, what I do with customers' cars before I give them back, I got a leaf blower, gas one, and I blow it when I'm done, and all the dust will blow off of it. You just have to wash and wax them, and they'll keep them in a good garage. Otherwise, they're going to get dirty fast. That's just how black cars are. Next question. Andre Wick says, our Toyota 2003 Sequoia and 2008 FJ Cruiser is reliable. I'm thinking about taking on a car payment and looking at these two. I'm 100% disabled and I like bigger vehicles. Well, they are both relatively reliable vehicles. Obviously, you're not caring about gas mileage because they're both relative gas hogs that eat an awful lot of gas up. But if you want something that lasts a long time, yeah, those things can last a long time. I got customers with them that have 350, 400,000, and they're still running pretty good. I got a customer who buys and trains and sells hunting dogs, and I think half of it is he's tired of his wife. He drives all over the place. He puts 100,000 miles a year on his, so and they still run good. Next question. Ramit Sakorn says, Scotty, I'm looking at a 2001 Mazda Protege with a manual transmission. Has 193,000 kilometers, and the owner replaced both struts, control arms, and bearings. It's on sale for $850. What should I look for? Okay, well, that's not all that much money. The problem with Mazdas are they have one of the worst automatic transmissions. That's a standard transmission. So it could be a good buy. I mean, driving around, that's low mileage. And if it seems to run okay, bring a scan tool with you. If you don't have one, buy a cheap one. You can get cheap ones for 30, 40, 50 bucks just to make sure there's no codes or anything. And if it runs okay, hey, go ahead and buy it. That's not much for a car, and if it runs, hey, could be a deal. Next question. Michael Rivera says, Scotty, I got an '04 Toyota Corolla. The temperature gauge stays on H after driving. Do you recommend changing the thermostat and water pump? It's leaky. And also the belt to remedy the issue. Well, start there. You always want to fix the obvious things. Thermostats are cheap. They wear out. Put a thermostat in. If the water pump's leaking, put another water pump in, fill it up with coolant, and then see what happens. Now, if that doesn't fix it, there's a ton of things it can be. Watch my video, How to Fix an Overheating Car Engine. That explains anything that it could possibly be. And if those two don't fix it, one of those will show you what the problem is. Hostin S says, Scotty, how does one go about finding an honest mechanic like you? Houston is too far away. Yeah, I'm like my grandfather. It's one of those skip a generation things. He was a mechanic. My father could barely tie his own shoes, but he was a genius bridge player and gambler on horse track. So he used his brain for that instead of fixing cars. But it's hard to find a mechanic these days who's honest, because in my day, it wasn't as hard. There are a lot of corner gas stations where guys, their sons, grandfathers, grandkids all worked there and they knew what they were doing. But as cars got more and more complex and our society changed, and the corner gas station turned into a convenience store where they charge, $1.50 for a bottle of Coke that cost a penny to make, it's hard to find a good mechanic. Ask your friends, ask around, see if somebody knows a good mechanic, because really good mechanics, they don't waste any money advertising. I've never spent a nickel advertising because I know how to fix cars. My customers know I do. They tell their friends, they tell their friends. So I don't waste any money advertising. And they're hard to find because why should we waste money advertising when you have enough business? Ask your friends. That's the absolute best way. But just make sure you got friends that know about cars and don't think that, they got a great deal. They got their gas cap changed. It only cost them $500. So, only use friends that know about cars. Next question. Joshua Clayton says, Scotty, I left my car idling. It has over 200,000 miles for almost 5 hours. By accident. When I shut off the engine, it was making a gurgling sound. I'm concerned it's a blown head gasket. Well, if the cooling system was working okay and you went in there and the temperature gauge wasn't in the H, it was normal, it didn't hurt anything. But if you're worried about a blown head gasket, it's very easy to check. I got a video I put up, about blown head gaskets on Tuesday. Watch it. You can see for a $30 test kit, you can easily check to see if your head gasket's blown. Just type in how to tell if your head gasket's blown, Scotty, in YouTube, and you'll find that video. It's real easy to check. I doubt if it did it from that little amount of time, though. Next question. Kartik B says, Scotty, would you recommend changing the automatic transmission fluid on an Infiniti 2011 M56 7-speed automatic transmission at as close to 70,000 miles? Yes, I definitely would, because those 7-speed transmissions had a lot of problems. I just worked on one, had the old 5-speed automatic, and they were bulletproof. Yeah, those things could run forever. This guy's got one. It's 12 years old, still runs like a clock, shifts like a dream. But those newer ones, I would change it. Now, see, if that was like a Chrysler, I'd say don't, because your chance and fate, and a lot of times you'll change the fluid and then they start slipping. But the Infinitis are a different design. They don't work that way. So I would definitely change it. Just make sure you use the same fluid that it came with. Get it at the dealer. It doesn't cost all that much. It's not all that expensive. Next question. The Pump and Greaser says, Scotty, I got a 65 Ford F-150. It's a 352 V8. Do you think it needs higher octane gasoline? I don't know much about it since I got it about a week ago. Okay. It's a 65. Realize back then, gasoline was actually higher octane than it is today. Today, it's actually lower than it was back then. So, what you want to do is two things. First, put a tank of regular gas in and drive it. Take it on a highway. Go where the highway there's overpasses and accelerate in the overpass. See how it runs. Then the next tank of gas, put in high octane gas. If it runs exactly the same, don't waste your money on high test. But if it runs better and say it pings with regular but not with the premium, then it will run better with the premium gas. Realize back in those days they had higher octane gas than they do today. They always mess with the octane rating, what it actually means. It's a very complex formula that chemists have created, so it's not that easy to compare the gas they sold in 65 to the gas that they're selling in 2018 in the United States. Next question. ThinkPad says, Scotty, I got a Mitsubishi Mirage 1.0 three-cylinder engine. How reliable is it? Okay, I'm not particularly a Mitsubishi fan, but they usually make pretty decent engines. Now, it's a three-cylinder engine. They have less horsepower. They are strained more. If it's a naturally aspirated one that is not turbocharged or supercharged, they're generally relatively reliable if you change the oil all the time and don't overheat them. But if you get one that's turbocharged or supercharged, they're not as reliable. It strains them too much and they wear out over time. Ford had a problem with, and I believe they were using the same three-cylinder engine that the Mazdas were doing because they were, the Mitsubishis and the Mazdas, they were linked in for a while, and Ford gave up with that three-cylinder engine, and now they use three-cylinder engines that are made in Romania from a place that's been making them for ages, and they're better made. Check to see where the engine is made from. That's always my advice, because most of those companies, they don't make their own three-cylinder engines. See where it comes from. Next question. Russ V. T guy says, does anyone still make a key start vehicle? Yeah, there's still a few of them out there. You know, they go for those keyless ignition systems because then they can charge people more money when they break. I have had customers with Nissans and Infinitis that when that system broke down, it was $1,500 to fix them. So, and it's a crock too, because I, as a mechanic who knows what he's doing, I got machines that can reprogram them when those key systems go out to put new ones in. But unfortunately, I am an independent mechanic, and only the dealer mechanics and a bonded locksmith can get the codes for a lot of these systems. So even though I got the machine that can do it, I can't get the codes. So, you know, to me, that's just asinine that they treat people like that. It's just not fair. It just isn't fair. Next question. Jamie Ramos said, greetings, Scotty. Should I really change my oil every 3,000 miles, or is it too often? I got an '05 Mercury Montego two-wheel drive with 161,000 miles. Okay, let's say you're using a good oil like Castrol. You could push it to 5,000 miles if you want. I personally change mine every 3, but I don't drive much, so it's only once a year, so it doesn't really matter. You got to change your oil once a year regardless of what you're using. Now, if you use a full synthetic oil, some guys push them 8 to 10,000 miles. I don't know, maybe I'd go 8 with one of those, but you're going to pay twice as much for the oil, so why not buy the cheaper oil and just change it twice as often, and you're safer that way anyways. Because with 161,000 miles, odds are it's going to get dirtier faster, and it's probably going to burn a little bit of oil too. Next question. Alfredo Perez says, what's up, Scotty? 97 Cadillac DeVille North Star engine. Any help? Those things, those North Stars they put in the 97s, this is one of the worst engines Cadillac ever made. They were blowing head gates like though tomorrow. And it's not like when I was a young mechanic in the 60s. When you had a V8 engine, you could do a head gasket job for a couple $100. That is a quad cam V8 engine. I've seen guys spend $6,000 doing a head gasket job on those engines. So if the engine's out, I would junk the car. I wouldn't even bother fixing it. But if you do have it, it runs okay, I'd sell it as fast as I could or use it as a weekend toy and wouldn't put much mileage on it. Green Tree 106 says, Scotty, do you ever get bored of cars after 51 years of constantly sticking to the subject? Hey, only a bored person can get bored. The technology of cars changes so much, and now, it's like computers. They roll over. Every year and a half, they're like twice as complicated. So you got to keep up. And they get boring. Let me tell you, I wish it got boring. In my grandfather's day, hey, he knew everything there was about simple old cars. And up until the early 60s, they didn't change hardly anything. So, he didn't have to keep learning new stuff. And, I suppose it would get boring. But he was the type of guy that he liked doing stuff, honest work, fixing people's cars, then going home, watching a baseball game, football game, or whatever. He played contract bridge. And, hey, it's a different lifestyle. But now, boy, you got to have a noggin to work on cars. That's why you see a lot of people that don't know what they're doing working on cars screw it up because they don't know what they're doing. They're just stupid. It takes a lot to be a real mechanic these days. That's why it's getting harder and harder to find good ones. Next question. Ruben Tatum says, would you advise becoming an auto technician? Okay, here we go. Guy wants to know about it. Well, if you don't mind getting your hands dirty, or like me, wear surgeon's gloves, then your hands don't get dirty. And you like electronics. That's the main thing. If you like electronics and you like tracing down electronic problems, become an auto tech, you can make an awful lot of money. Because eventually, once you learn how to do it well, then you build up a clientele, then start your own business, and you can make a lot of money. Hey, I've made millions fixing cars over the years. I've been doing it for 51 years, and I undercut everybody because I don't have any overhead. I work by myself. So if you don't mind doing like that and you want to learn, use your noggin, sky's the limit. But, be warned that there's electronics to the forefront. If you don't like electronics, do not become an auto technician these days. Next question. Oh, Kenny says, millions, but he looks like a homeless man. Oh, yeah? Okay. Why do I look like a homeless man? Just because I have the same haircut. Hey, I shave every day, I look like a homeless man. To ask me, Your idea of a homeless man, and you ought to get out in the real world and see what homeless men really look like. We used to have one down the street. I think he's dead now. We called him Santa Bum because he had a big white beard, and he was like Santa Bum. He's gone now. I think he finally died. He was a rampant alcoholic. But you don't know much about what homeless people look like if you think I look like a homeless man. Next question. Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good, asks, hey, Scotty, what's your opinion on Saturn? Okay, I know all about that company. Matter of fact, one of my old customers, he was the head of the advertising firm in San Francisco that did that all, we Saturn, we want to be your car company and all that nonsense about, oh, your summer vacation, come to the factory and visit that. Basically, it was just a GM spin-off, and they decided, oh, well, we really can't make good small cars, so let's make a factory on the East Coast. That's all they make are small cars. Well, they made small cars, but here's an example. One of my customers, and her name was Linda Toyota, which is hilarious because she always owned Toyotas, but she thought she'll support American cars, and she bought a Saturn. She bought it. And after she had it about 6 months, I said, what do you think of that Saturn? She said, well, it's about 50% of the car that my old Toyota was. And you can even see the dash wasn't even glued in right. Now, they were a massive failure in the long run. They don't make them anymore. But they made some four-cylinder cars that were okay. And I've had lots of customers. They go for nothing now because they went bankrupt. They don't make them anymore. And they'll buy a used one for $800 or $1,000. And sometimes they can drive it for 5 or 6 years more. And there's nothing wrong with that. But don't buy one of their V6 engines. They were junk. They originally had Honda V6 engines, and they were great. But then Honda had an argument with them and said, you got to put the Honda coolant, not your Dex cool. And they said, no, we're not going to get just a special coolant only for the V6 engines. So Honda said, oh, you can all go to Hades. We're not selling you any of our V6 engines. Then they started to make their own V6 engine instead of the Honda engines, and they were all junk. So I wouldn't buy a V6 one unless it was an old one and it had the Honda V6, not the one that Saturn made. Next question. Iris 2K says, Scotty, I'm looking at an '02 Subaru Impreza WRX. It has 128,000 miles for $6,500. Is it a good buy? Okay, here's the thing. Those nice little cars, those WRXs, you want to see who owns the car and try to find out how it was taken care of. And before you buy a car like that, you want a mechanic like me to check it out, hands down. You don't want to buy it naked without a mechanic looking at it. Because a lot of guys buy those WRXs and they just burn the heck out of them. And it could be completely worn out and you don't want it. But if it's a middle-aged guy, old lady or something selling, it'd be a good car, Just don't buy it from some young kid if he's selling it, because generally they beat the heck out of them. Brian J. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8. I guess 6 was taken. Asked, I have a 2013 Tundra 5.7. Is there any way to gain gas mileage? Yes. Sell it and get a Toyota Corolla. Okay. The Tundras are giant trucks. They're up in the air. They're not aerodynamic, and they have a huge V8 engine in it. They're just gas hogs. And there's nothing you can do about it other than keep air in the tires, keep clean air filters, change the oil so it's clean, don't carry unnecessary weight in the bed and stuff like that. But they're just gas hogs. They're big, giant V8 trucks. If somebody wants a big, giant V8 truck, they're great trucks. They can run a really long time. But you're never going to get gas mileage in one of those things. They're not that way. If somebody wants a big, giant truck and say they're hauling a lot of stuff and they want better gas mileage, at least on the highway, you get a diesel truck. You don't buy a gasoline truck. The gasoline trucks are just gas hogs. It's just how they go. Next question. Joe Gonzalez says, what's better for mile per gallons, Corolla or Civic? Okay, depends on what you want to buy and how you're going to drive it. Now, the absolute best gas mileage you're going to get is generally in the smallest Civic with a standard transmission if you drive it conservatively. That said, most people these days are buying cars that have automatics, and a lot of the newer ones, they're the CVT transmissions. And in that case, as far as I'm concerned, Toyota makes the best one. It's Aisin is the company that makes it. Now, Honda makes their own CVTs, but they don't seem to be as good as the Toyotas. If you're getting the CVT, I would get the Corolla. I wouldn't get the Civic. But if you're getting the standard, you could get the Civic. Next question. Andy Marin says, I got a 97 F-150 V6 coolant, smelling exhaust. Low coolant every few days. You probably got a blown head gasket. So watch my new video, how to tell if your head gasket is blown. Scotty. Just type that into YouTube, Google search, whatever you want. My video will come up. That test kit will cost you like $30 if you want to buy it on Amazon like I did. And just do the test. It's probably the head gasket starting to blow. Then you got to decide, are you going to try some sealer? Sometimes that lasts a little. Or are you going to spend a ton of money tearing the engine apart and getting the head gasket? Or are you just going to get another vehicle? If it runs okay, my advice would be try some sealer and sell it and get something else. Because you're going to spend a lot of money tearing that V6 engine down. Dustin Richards says, Scotty, I'm wanting to buy an AMC Rambler for a cheap classic. Any thoughts? Yeah, those were funky cars, those Ramblers. I got a customer that's got one, and this is a Lark, and it was an ugly color green, really ugly. But it was a cool car. It had that slant 6 engine that could run forever. I think they're kind of cool cars, and it'd be an oddball classic, too. And you can probably get a decent price on one. You can still get parts for it. They're still readily available. And they're very simple to work on, Some people liked them, some people didn't. But if you like the way they look, why not if you find one that isn't all rusted out? Next question. Frank Sands says, Scotty, why don't you own a truck? Okay, I don't own a truck because I live in downtown Houston. I don't need a truck, If I ever need a truck, I just get on my computer and I send an email to Ford and said, send me one of your new trucks to try out. Then they give me it for a week and I use it for a week and give it back to them. So I'm never going to buy one. I don't need to buy one. I get one free from Ford. They like it that I use them in my videos, so I get a free truck to drive around, and it's fun. But I didn't have any space for one. Anyways, my wife and I, the children are gone. They left the nest decades ago, and I got grandkids now, and we still got 3 cars and a motorcycle, and there are only 2 of us here, so I don't need another vehicle. Next question. Mr. Wall says, Scott, I got 86 K5 CUC military Blazer. Oh, that's cool. The taillights went up, but the fuse isn't blown. How do they fix the issue? Okay, that's an old vehicle. But the thing about GM stuff, they often get ground wire faults. So what you want to do is go to the back and, of course, get a test light and see if there's power going to the taillights when you turn on. But if they have power, that means they don't have any ground. Then you can fix the grounds. And all 12-volt DC systems, you need power and you need ground. Because the power has to go to the bulb, and then it goes to the bulb, and then it goes to the ground. And if the ground doesn't work, they won't light up. So check the ground wiring first. That's the most common thing on any old GM vehicle. You can easily reground the whole thing if you have to. Next question. Javier Altagracia says, Scotty, CVT or six-speed automatic transmission? I would go for six-speed. I just like them better. Maybe in the future, the CVT transmissions will become bulletproof. My son recently bought a brand new Toyota Corolla with a CVT, and he loves it. I never liked them because they had lag, but his doesn't lag. His goes like stink. So it's got plenty of acceleration, and he really likes it. He was afraid. He thought, hey, I don't know if I like it. He test drove one and liked it. He's had it for like 6 months, and he loves it. So I'm assuming that Toyota, with the Ason transmissions, that they'll probably, be really well made. Matter of fact, the Ram trucks, they gave up with running other transmissions, and they're not using the Toyota Ason automatic transmissions for all of their CVT stuff. So, maybe Toyota has them almost down pat now. I still would get the six-speed until I was sure, though. Next question is Vittorio D.P. Diaz. Scotty, what do you think about rear-wheel drive cars in the snow? Is it bad? Well, it's fun for doing donuts. They spin really well, and I grew up with that stuff when I was a kid. If you do have a rear-wheel drive car in the snow, you got to put snow on the thing. And generally, depending on the vehicle, you got to put weight in the trunk. Like when we were kids with Mustangs, I grew up in Niagara Falls, we would get sandbags and put them in the trunk over each wheel, because they needed more weight. The Mustangs were too light in the back, and you needed a lot more weight in the back. And you really need snow tires if you got rear-wheel drive, if you live anywhere where it actually snows a lot. But if you know how to drive, it's totally doable. But with front-wheel drive, they're a lot easier to control, especially cornering. There's no arguing that. My mother still lives in Niagara Falls, and she doesn't even buy snow tires on her Toyota Corolla as front-wheel drive. She drives it with the regular all-season tires. Glenn D asks, hey, Scotty, what would happen if I put E85 in my non-flex fuel engine once or twice to save money? It's so much cheaper here. 20 cents cheaper at some pumps. Okay. Well, you're not supposed to do it because there's too much alcohol in it. And if you got water in your gas tank, it's going to suck all that water and clog everything up. Now, if you're an experimenter and you want to do it, you can give it a try. Your car's not set up for it, and often it'll ping and stuff like that. But here's the thing that you're not thinking about. Okay, it might be 20 cents a gallon cheaper, but E85 is 85% ethanol. And ethanol has 20% less British thermal units, which is energy, than gasoline. So you will get 20% worse gas mileage using E85. And 20 cents a gallon cheaper, that's probably more than 20%. And so you're actually losing money in the deal. Realize that alcohol gets worse gas mileage. It does have more power, like those top fuel dragsters that run on alcohol. Hey, they got a lot of power, but then again, they use 5 gallons of alcohol to go a quarter of a mile. So it takes them, 20 gallons of fuel to go 1 mile, which isn't very good gas mileage. Next question. Alfonso Rangel says, Scotty, a 2015 Ram 4x2 Hemi. What are your thoughts about buying one? Okay, I'm not a Dodge fan. Those are good Hemi engines. There's nothing wrong with the engines. The engines are well made. It's the rest of the truck that can have problems. Now, if you have a mechanic like me, check it out with this big old fancy scan tool. And he says, well, no, it's in pretty good shape. It's 4 years old, if you can get a good price on one, because their resale value is pretty low most places. You might think about buying it if the mileage is low enough, but don't buy a high mileage one. They eat up transmissions, and their electronics are kind of weak. Next question. Next question is Papa Comeback. Hey, Scotty, my wife left me. What should I do? Well, depends on your wife. Did you really like her? Is it something that you really, If so, go after her and tell him you made a fool of yourself. But on the other hand, if you didn't get along that well, hey, start looking for another one. I got lucky. I got a great wife, lets me do whatever I want. The best looking girl in town when I was young. Hey, I can't complain. She left me, I'd probably shoot myself in the head. She wouldn't leave me though. She said, I'm still interesting, so, Maybe you should act more interesting towards women and have a good sense of humor with them. Anyway, next question. Green and Brown says, Scotty, what do you think about Alfa Romeo's solid speed transmission? Okay, the Italians make some interesting technology. I'll give it to that. But in terms of longevity, the stuff never seems to last very long. It always seems to break down and not hold up over time. That's that's one of the reasons. Take Ferrari. They used to win all the Formula One races, but then they made rules that said, well, you can only get so many engines and transmissions each year. And then all the Italian cars started losing all the races because they only had 4 or 5 engines and transmissions, I guess, and they would all break down. And Mercedes kept winning because the Mercedes ones, they just were built better and lasted longer. So I wouldn't buy anything Italian and expect it to last very long. Well, that's it for today. Remember, every day of the week, I upload a new video on the Scotty Kilmer channel. So subscribe and ring that notifications bell so you never miss another one, so that they'll tell you when I put a new one up. I'm here every Thursday at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time on YouTube Live answering your questions, and Saturday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. So catch me then.